Welcome to ACCI's podcast, a space where we discuss how a movement of Australian Christians is working to transform communities and nations one life at a time.
Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of our ACCI One Life at a Time podcast. And it's with great pleasure today that we have the company of Alison Atkinson. Alison has done some incredible things in the nation of Sri Lanka, and her story is remarkable. Alison went there as a young woman in her early 20s with her husband. Her husband was tragically martyred, preaching the gospel. They'd only been there a few years, and as a young woman with two small children, she continued and persevered to finish the work that her and her husband went there to achieve just a couple of short years earlier. After a little over a decade or so, she came back to Australia, remarried, but couldn't get Sri Lanka out of her heart, went back to Sri Lanka, had been there a very short time on this occasion, and was on this time on the beach with her husband. Now there's a few new kids to this new family, and all of a sudden, appearing on the horizon was the tsunami that many of you listening today would remember from the early 2000s that had a devastating effect upon a large percentage of Southeast Asia. These guys were literally on the beach when that thing hit. They got their goods and chattels, ran for their lives, and the rest is history. And why don't we catch up on a little bit of that history now with Alison. Alison, welcome.
Thank you.
Again, thank you for joining with us today. And I think the burning question on everybody's lips has got to be this. You're a 25-year-old young woman. You're in a foreign country, a different language, different culture. Your husband is untimely taken away from you. You have two small children. The natural inclination, I think, of most people that are listening to us now or watching this podcast would be go back home, get some TLC from mum and dad, from the immediate family, recoup, and then determine what we do. But not you. You stayed. How did you get the strength to persevere against such challenge?
There's a couple of things that really, made me make that decision. And the main one was that I knew that God had called me. From a very young age, when I was just in my teenage years, I remember missionaries coming through our church and them talking about, the need in the world, that, the gospel needs to be spread. And I said, I want to go. Yes, God. I said from a very young age, I said to God, I want to be a missionary. And I felt the call then. So naturally, when we were called to come to Sri Lanka, to go back to Sri Lanka, I just knew that that was a yes, because I knew the call when I was very young. And after that call, I worked in the church, I worked with children in the ministry, I served in our church, and I just knew God was opening that door for us to go to Sri Lanka. So it was the calling of God that actually took, that made me, as a 25-year-old with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, to make that decision, even though my pastor and my best friend were on their way to pick me up and to take me back to Australia, to my family, to my church. I just knew that that God was doing something in my life. And then also the other one was that, I can't remember it.
The word.
Yeah, the word. So you have to change that one. And the other second thing was God speaking to me, in that time when I'm a 25-year-old, as I said, with two young children, I thought, how can I stay in Sri Lanka? How can I, do that? Who's going to finance me? Because they financed my husband, not me. I was a wife and a couple of kids, serving in the ministry, but here I am. And then, audibly, God spoke to me. I heard his voice very clearly. He said out of Philippians, very simple, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Right. And he said, and then also out of Philippians, I will supply all your needs. Right. And I knew that God has just got us. And as it seems very simple, but it was very simple because I had lost, and I was going to lose my people as well in the church that we were pioneering.
Right.
So I just made that decision, and out of the simplicity of this incredible, how God has spoken to me out of His Word. And as an older person now looking back, God has been so faithful to those words that He spoke to me as a young 25-year-old widow today. And I can look back because I have that privilege. He's true to His Word. He's faithful.
Yeah. You know, you say it's simple, and my God shall supply all our needs. You know that you can do all things through Christ. They're verses we tend to learn in Sunday school for those of us who have been around. But it's amazing, I imagine, when you're up against the bleakness of grief.
Yeah.
Simplicity is what you need.
True. That's very true.
And God spoke to you, and that, I guess, came on top of that irrepressible call that was in your heart. And so you continue to work. Just give us a little bit of an outline of what the work was like. What was it that you were doing now as a 25-year-old young woman with these two small children? Now your husband's out of the way. What are you putting your heart to and your hand to at this point?
Yeah, well, we're pioneering a church up in the mountains of Sri Lanka, and we only just moved there just months before he was killed, and I just got in, and I had help, of course. I worked with a team of people that came alongside of me, and we continued to pioneer this incredible church. And because I made that decision to stay, God opened incredible doors, and the church in Australia wanted to give towards, to the work that I was doing. And so we were able to, through the generosity of the Australian church, we were able to purchase a land and build an incredible church. I saw that church as a lighthouse in a dark place. And today it's an incredible lighthouse, powerful church. That church seats about 600 people. It squeezes in a few more, but reaches out into in communities right around it, and it truly is a lighthouse. So I just saw that church, Pioneer Church, established, and today it's an incredible work in during those first year or so.
Yeah. So following that, you came back to Australia.
Yes.
You remarried back in Australia. It's over 10 years since your husband was killed.
Yes.
You have a few small children now in that relationship, and you go back to Sri Lanka. Like, what drew you back there? You obviously couldn't not go back. Is that right? Tell us about what drew you back there.
Well, God was very good to me, number one, because He gave me an amazing husband, and Narel's a great guy, and Sri Lankan as well, and blessed us with 3 more children. So I have 5 children, and at the moment 3 grandchildren.
Right.
But God blessed us, and we were doing really well, John. In the church that we were in, it's now called Hope You See, Newcastle. But the church that we're in, we served in the church. We did the kids ministry. We owned our own home. We were doing brilliantly well. We were settled. We lived for 7 years, but never, ever, in all those years that we were there, did it ever leave my heart the people in Sri Lanka. We continued to be in connection and support the people in Sri Lanka and do the work that we were doing, and anything that we could connect to provide and pray over things. But it just, in my heart, that love and the passion that God had placed in my heart, the call upon my heart, and Narel had that same calling, in his heart to go back to his people, that pulled us both back to Sri Lanka and to serve him there.
Yeah, right. So you're back in Sri Lanka, what is a very short space of time, and you happen to be on the beach with these 3 small children you're talking about, and your daughter, I believe, the older one. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the water disappears, literally, so quickly that there are fish twirling on the sand, right? There's this big rock face out in the ocean that's gone because the tsunami is bearing down on you. You do what anybody, I imagine, would do in this situation. You and your husband get all your goods and chattels together, your children, and you take off. And you make it to your lodgings. You scurry up the stairs, and the tsunami hits. Tell us about that. I mean, did you know that this event that you're experiencing in this moment was going to take out 50,000 people in Sri Lanka, hundreds of thousands of people through Southeast Asia? What's going through your mind? Why this is all unfolding?
No, I actually thought it was the end of the world.
Really?
I thought, because we had no idea, we didn't know that when you see fish dancing on the water and the water's gone out, that's actually signs of a tsunami. We were watching it for quite some time. So we literally thought, this is the end. We didn't know what was going on. There was a huge rock, about a 10-foot rock, in front of the hotel, and as I was walking back to the swimming pool, I saw this rock disappear. And my husband, he grabbed our two boys, who were quite small, but he grabbed both of them and he lifted them up like that, and he just ran like this, and I grabbed my daughter and we ran. But when he tried to do that later on, he actually couldn't lift them like that. It was just like crazy. He couldn't lift them. So anyways, we got to safety. And then, as you said, my older daughter, Sonia, was there. Nathan was actually in Australia. And she was screaming and crying and laying on the ground crying. And I like a worm, she's screaming. I thought, what is wrong? I thought I looked around to see if the relatives are all safe that were with us, and they were there. She said, no, Mum, I saw this dream. I saw a dream, and the waves, exactly how it was today. Wow. And she said, Mum, tens of thousands of people have died. And she had no idea. We had no idea it was tsunami. Wow. And it was a terrifying experience. And and we were just then taken to a Catholic church where we were kept until we could be picked up by family later in the day, in the evening.
Wow. So the building you were staying in was hit by the tsunami, but it didn't fall. It stood, which was very fortunate.
It did. We had my little daughter, Becky, she actually later on, a few days later, she drew the hotel, and you could see she had drawn, the swimming pool was blue, and on the other side it was black. Because that's what she remembered in her mind, but the whole down was there, but it stayed standing. Right. Yeah.
So did that change your plans? I mean, you've gone back there to minister and to help the people of Sri Lanka, and now you're in the middle of an existential crisis. I mean, this is a serious matter. What does that do to your plans?
Changes completely. So if the whole of 2005, so that was 2004 December, the whole of 2005 we were disaster relief. Mm-hmm. We initially started off in Sri Lanka. They're amazing people. Immediately they all went in. Before the international teams arrived, the people in Sri Lanka were getting clothes, they were getting water, they were getting food, anything we could get down through the churches, through local organisations. That's what we did. We worked with local organisations, and then the international groups started coming. Right. Australian churches here, they started working with us in there and sending funds so that we were able to work alongside of so many families that just lost everything. So through AOG in Australia, we were able to work and find land for houses to be built, and we were part of that, and people lost their homes and their furniture. We saw them being able to have homes to live in. But one of the things that really impacted me during the tsunami was that we were driving down the south coast of Sri Lanka to go and minister to children in camps. And we had done a whole lot of training with the counsellors who are not counsellors, but just for that particular situation. And we were travelling down south and to work with the kids. But I just remember hearing about the train, and this train was packed because it was Christmas, and they were packed and they were going down south. And then as I'm driving down, there's like massive boats on the side of the road. There's nothing. There's not a shop where you can buy a drink. There's nothing all along for miles and miles and miles. And then I saw the train and my heart broke because 1,700 people died in that train. Wow. And so that really just did something in my heart. And we worked really hard for that year. We put everything on hold, and we just worked alongside of anyone and everyone. We worked with a lot of organisations internationally, and just doing what we could do and make the difference. Yeah.
I guess following that season, however, then you got into the thing that you went back to establish.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the work in Sri Lanka that you do today, and what's that about?
Yeah, so we actually had a real passion for children. That's been one of my big in my heart because I knew Christ at a young age. So I get to grow up and serve God all my life. So my impact in children, working with children, I wanted to see God do amazing things in their lives. So we started in a community, and a very poor community, underprivileged community. That's where we got located, and we started an education centre, the Help Kids Centre. We started with 6 children 19 years ago, and we've just seen God just impact that whole community. The Help Kids Centre today is ministering to 133 families. It's like a church, because they all come in and we work alongside them, because it's about the whole family. Right. Yeah, we got to work with, because you can't work with the children and send the children back to a family that is not whole and not working. So we had that incredible opportunity today to work with those families, just under 500 people that we work with in our program at the Help Kids Centre in a given month. So it also stands as a model to the government, because the government come in and have a look at it, and they've heard about us, and they actually come in and see the work that we're doing in the community. A lot of the schools right around us are paying schools, but the Help Kids is a free school for the community children, for the poor children, and it's a better school than most of, or nearly all of the schools in our area. So I thank God for that, because when we do something, we do it well, and we give glory to God for what, that we've been able to do that and to impact lives of children. So that today is an incredible influence in that community, making a difference. Other thing is that we're doing today is we have our projects in our community projects and church-led projects that we do. And that's just building bridges, from the church to the community. If it's we just recently did like spectacles, and whether, with poor families, and it's just having that pastor and his church standing in the lead, and they're leading it, and then that gives them an opportunity, doors open to reach into community through the project. So that is incredible. And in saying that too, along the East Coast, we get to work with women. We just had this Alokia Women's Conference, and we've been doing that now. We've run 5 of those over the 10 years. And just last year we had just on 1,200 women come, and it was amazing. From the first note that they sang, the women just raised their hands and they worship. These are leaders, women in leadership. They're pastors' wives. We can't even call the people in the congregation because we don't have space for them. But it's an incredible impact all along the East Coast. It's making a difference in the lives of women who are very looked down upon in that community, but suffered a lot.
Right. Which in my opinion adds incredible kudos to the fact that you were a 25-year-old young girl pioneering a church. Let's just put that to one side for a moment, because I do want to come back to the Help Kids program if we can. And I'm sure that over the last 18 years, there's been many children, young people come through that program. But I was wondering if you could share with us a story of one that springs to mind.
Yeah, so one of the ones that really does is a boy called Sudara, and this young guy came into because part of Help Kids, we also had a temporary residential care unit alongside of the program there. But he came in, but his parents committed the worst fraud in Sri Lanka at that time, which was about 12 years ago, and I saw this on television, right? On television, it's all through the news, all through the media, and the family had been captured. They had left the country, they came back, they'd been captured. They were on TV, they were showing how they were taking them to the police car, but then I saw these 2 little ones following their parents. They tried to cover their heads, and I heard on the news then that they said the 2 children are going to be placed in a residential care home. So I said to God, well, we have a residential care home. Can we have them in our home? I really want them to come to our home. I really felt really burdened for them. So 2 days later, the court called Narol, my husband, and said, can you take these children? We need to place them in a good home. And Narol rang me, and I said, well, he knew that was answer to that question. Of course we did. And so we took that brother and sister. But, you know, it's been an incredible journey with them. And that boy got an opportunity, because they're very intelligent children, like their parents. That boy got the opportunity to go to South Korea and study for a couple of years. And then a part of that, he finished it in New York. And he did so well, everything paid for, completely covered. Airfares coming home every year, see his family, see us. And then he finished his year so well that Amazon, they go looking for the best, the highest in the colleges in New York, and he got offered. He didn't even go looking for the job. This boy got offered a job at Amazon, and today he works in Amazon. He loves the Lord. And he sent me pictures of him getting baptized in water and singing in the choir and working in his church. But, you know, it's incredible the impact that we can have, and you never know. You never know the impact on. I would never even thought that day that I said, you know, God, I want that child, that what God was going to do. Because if he went into another orphanage.
Sure. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? But this, coming into your care, he didn't just find love, acceptance, and forgiveness, but he found a personal relationship with Jesus.
That's right.
Yeah. And the fullness of God in his life became evident. Yeah. And I mean, this is a one life at a time podcast. And if there's ever an illustration of that, then I'm pretty sure the one you just shared with us was very much an illustration of one life being changed at a time. Hey, I hope that you've enjoyed this interview. I honestly believe Alison's story could be made into a movie. I'm not sure that it will be. But I think you'll agree with me when I say that she really is a hero of faith, and really does set up an example for us all to follow, to continue with the call of God and the word of God is in our heart, that nothing can stand before us, not even a tsunami. Hey, I trust that you'll take some time to perhaps look at some of our other podcasts here on ACCI, and if there's anything that we can do to help you in your journey to disciple the nations, please email us at off our website at acci.org.au. God bless you and have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of One Life at a Time. To play a part in making a difference or to find out more about ACCI's impact across the globe, visit acci.org.au.